Hello, welcome to this intro video for the userauth open source project that allows user authentication and authorization capability on top of the existing capability provided by Wappler. You can find this project at github.com/impress-dev/userauth as shown in the video. To start using it, we will create a new Wappler project. We'll call it userauth intro. Put it in its own folder. As you can see, it's a Wappler local server and a Node.js project. To install userauth into the project, we will need to get access to a terminal. One way of doing this is to click on Pages and then Files. From here, obviously on a Mac, go to Show in Finder. When the Finder window appears, click on the folder and select New Terminal and Folder, and now you have your terminal. Let's do pwd to get the current directory that we're in. From here, we'll go back to the userauth GitHub page and we want to add userauth to a Wappler project. So we copy the install command, paste it into the terminal, remove the path to Wappler project placeholder, copy the working directory and paste it in and press enter. The first thing you'll see is that it says the supplied Wappler project needs to be a valid Git project. The reason for this is that userauth exists as a collection of Git submodules that are to be added to a parent Git project. To turn your project into a Git project, you go to the Git Manager tab and press Create Repository. It's as simple as that. You now have a local Git project on your machine, and should you want to, you could connect it to a remote service such as GitHub. Going back to the command line, we can now rerun our command, and you'll see that the installation is now taking place. After installation completion, a set of steps are presented to you that you now need to follow. The first of which is to restart Wappler, the main reason being that as part of the installation a number of pages have been installed in a userauth folder, as you can see here. However, if you look at the roots, you'll see that they're still empty. So the roots file was updated as part of the installation, but in order to pick those changes up, you need to restart Wappler. As you can see, the roots for all the userauth pages are now in place. The next step is to create a Postgres database called database. It's important that it's called database because as part of the installation, a mailer and a security provider were installed and they reference a database called database. So I'm using a service called Elephant SQL that gives you free 20 megabyte Postgres databases. And I input the connection details as seen. Clearly I've put the wrong value in for name, so I'm going to revert that back to database and now put the host value in the correct place. With that step done, I can now look at the next command, and that is to set a value for steward password as an environment variable in Wappler. So if I go to workflows and server connect settings, add the steward underscore password environment variable, and in this case just give it a value of ABCD123. The reason for setting this is that upon first login attempt of userauth, it will offer up the option of resetting and setting up the database, and only those that know the steward password will be able to do so. Finally, it says go to the userauth/login page, and here's where we get to see it in action. So if we find the login page and then we open it in a browser, you'll see that we don't in fact have a login page. We get presented instead with a database reset input form. From here you can input the admin credentials that you want added to the system, and additionally you have to input the steward password, which is the security for allowing this action to happen. Upon pressing submit, you can see that the database has been reset and you can now log in. Inputting the admin credentials that you just set, you are now able to log into the system. In this case, you see a blank page because we haven't really done anything with the index page of this new application in Wappler. However, if we go to userauth/manage, you can see an admin console that will show you statistical information and give you options such as logout, password change, and database reset. In no way is this feature complete. There's aspirations to make this a lot more usable and interactive, but this is what we've got right now. So if I log out and go back to the login screen, you'll see that we have a forgot password capability, and if you click on it, it allows you to input your email address to have a password reset. Additionally, there's an option to register, and this is where people can set up new accounts. So clearly, by asking for an email address, it has the need to send an email. This is optional. However, if you do want to make it work, then you can go into your environment variables and you will see that there are some preset ones for SMTP servers. On top of that, if you want to use reCAPTCHA in any of the login or register forms, etc., then by setting up the keys for your published domain, a secret key and a site key, you add them in here, and then conditionally it will show them as part of those input forms. If you do, then the types of emails that are sent are shown here. This one's for completing the registration, and that's simply done by clicking the link in the email. Additionally, for the password reset request, another link is sent, and if you click on that, then it will allow you to reset your password. Just pointing out that clearly there's some error here. I'm not sure what it is. We'll get it debugged and fixed, but it's a good pointer to say that for any bugs or feature requests that you have, then you can go to the GitHub page and raise them on there. Just referencing the content that's on the GitHub page, here you'll see the instructions for how to install userauth into a Wappler project, and here's the command for updating the modules. If we go back to Wappler, the final piece of instructions here are how you use userauth in your application. You'll see that there's some API endpoints created there, and especially in this case the authorize endpoint. If we go to the index page, then in order to add security to it, we go over to select server action, and we open up our endpoints, and then we select authorize. For the other endpoints, some of these are used by the userauth web pages, and additionally you can call these explicitly yourself if needed. You'll also see that under admin there is a similar authorize endpoint which can be used to enforce a page to be administrator access only. I will expand the documentation on the userauth GitHub webpage to explain what the purpose of all these various endpoints are. Finally, if you want to add a security restrict to your own backend endpoints, then you can do so as follows. Opening up the logout endpoint as an example, typically you would go up and add a security restrict. However, you'll see in this case we have a lib component that provides userauth restrict capability that does all funky stuff, and we have it for both a standard account and for an admin. And so in order to use that, you simply go to include action, and then you include the relevant restrict lib module. That's everything I wanted to show for now. There'll be more videos to come, and there'll be more updates on the GitHub web page for userauth.